The eviction notice in my husband's hands was shaking as he read my name at the bottom. Not his name. Not our names together. Just mine. Claire Rodriguez, property owner. His face went white, then red, then white again. 3 years ago when I told him I had a backup plan. He laughed so hard he nearly choked on his beer. What backup plan could you possibly have, Claire? You don't even have your own bank account. He wasn't laughing now. Standing in the doorway of what he thought was his house, holding legal papers that proved he'd been living a lie for the past 8 years. The same house where he'd humiliated me, controlled me, and made me feel worthless. But here's what he never knew about his helpless wife. I'd been 3 steps ahead of him the entire time. My name is Claire, and until recently, everyone thought I was the perfect submissive wife. Marcus and I had been married for 8 years, and from the outside we looked like the American dream. Beautiful house in suburbia, 2 cars in the driveway, annual vacations to Cancun. But dreams can be nightmares when you're living them. Marcus worked in sales at a tech company making decent money, while I stayed home as he insisted. Why would you need to work when I can provide for everything? He'd say, wrapping his arms around me. In the beginning it felt protective, loving even. I remember our honeymoon in Bali. We were sitting on the beach watching the sunset, his hand in mine, and he whispered, "I'll always take care of you, Claire. You'll never have to worry about anything." The waves lapped at our feet, and I felt so safe, so loved. "Promise me you'll always trust me with everything," he said, kissing my temple. "I promise," I whispered back. That promise would come back to haunt me in ways I never imagined. The first few years were actually wonderful. Marcus would surprise me with flowers, plan romantic dinners, and we'd spend entire weekends just talking and laughing. He was attentive, generous, and made me feel like the most important person in his world. But slowly, things began to change. It started with small comments during our 3rd year of marriage. We were at dinner with his colleagues, and someone mentioned a news story about financial independence. "Claire wouldn't know anything about that," Marcus said, cutting his steak. "She doesn't worry her pretty little head about money matters." His colleagues laughed. I smiled, but something cold settled in my stomach. Later that night, as we brushed our teeth together, I mentioned it. "Marcus, that comment about money tonight. It made me feel a bit foolish." He paused, toothbrush halfway to his mouth. "Claire, honey, you're being sensitive. I handle the finances because I'm good at it. That's what husbands do. But maybe I could learn. Just to understand our situation better." His reflection met mine in the mirror. For just a moment, something flickered across his face. Something that looked almost calculating. "Baby, trust me. The less you worry about money, the happier you'll be." He kissed my neck and changed the subject, but that cold feeling never left my stomach. By year 4, Marcus had systematically cut me off from everything financial. I didn't have access to our bank statements, didn't know how much money we had, and definitely didn't have my own credit card. "It's easier this way," he'd say whenever I brought it up. "I handle the boring stuff, you handle making our home beautiful." But I wasn't stupid. I watched how he'd tense up when bills came in the mail, how he'd take phone calls in another room when the bank called, how he'd started drinking more after checking his laptop each evening. One night, I woke up to find him pacing in the living room at 2 a.m., phone pressed to his ear. "I know what I owe, Jake. Just give me another month." "Yes, I know what happens if I don't pay." My blood ran cold. I crept back to bed, but sleep didn't come. Who was Jake? What did Marcus owe? The next morning, I tried to act normal as I made coffee. "Rough night. I thought I heard you talking." Marcus looked up from his phone, eyes sharp. "You must have been dreaming." But I knew what I'd heard. Our 5th anniversary trip to Italy should have been magical. Marcus had booked everything. Fancy hotels, expensive restaurants, tours of vineyards. He was back to being the charming man I'd married, and for a moment, I let myself believe things were getting better. We were sitting at a cafe in Rome, sharing gelato and watching people walk by, when his phone rang. "I have to take this," he said, stepping away. I could see him through the window, his body language becoming more agitated with each passing minute. His free hand was gesturing wildly, and even from a distance, I could see the stress lines around his eyes. When he came back, his smile looked forced. "Everything okay?" "Yes." "Perfect," he said, but his hand was shaking as he reached for his water glass. That night in our hotel room while he showered, I did something I'd never done before. I looked through his phone. What I found made my knees weak. Text after text about overdue payments, threatening messages from creditors, and worst of all, a conversation with someone named Jake about using the house as collateral if necessary. My house. The house I thought we owned together. But here's what Marcus didn't know. I'd been secretly taking photos of every important document in our house for over a year. Call it intuition, call it paranoia, but something had been telling me to prepare for the worst. After Italy, I became a detective in my own marriage. While Marcus was at work, I'd photograph bank statements when they arrived, copy important numbers from documents left on his desk, and slowly piece together our real financial situation. What I discovered was worse than I'd imagined. Marcus hadn't just been living beyond our means. He'd been gambling. Online poker, sports betting, crypto trading. Thousands of dollars lost every month while I clipped coupons and shopped at thrift stores because we needed to be more careful with money. But the most shocking discovery came when I found mortgage documents hidden in his office filing cabinet. The house, our house, had been refinanced twice without my knowledge. He'd forged my signature on documents and taken out nearly $200,000 in equity. My hands were shaking as I photographed every page. How was this even legal? That's when I decided to call my old college roommate, Sarah, who'd become a lawyer. "Claire," she said after I explained everything, "what your husband is doing is called financial abuse. And forging your signature. That's fraud. What can I do?" "First, you need to understand that you're not as powerless as he wants you to think. Second, we need to get you your own legal representation. And third," she paused, "Claire, do you have anywhere safe to go?" That question hit me like ice water. Did I? I didn't leave. Not yet. Instead, I became the actress of my life, playing the role of oblivious wife while secretly building my escape plan. Sarah connected me with a divorce attorney who specialized in financial abuse cases. During Marcus's work hours, I'd meet with Linda Chen, a sharp woman in her 50s who listened to my story with the intensity of a general planning a war. "Claire, your husband has committed several crimes," she said during our third meeting. "The forged signatures alone could land him in prison. But more importantly, you have rights to everything he's taken. But I don't have money for a legal battle. He controls everything." Linda smiled. The kind of smile that made me understand why she had such a fearsome reputation. "That's where you're wrong. In cases of financial fraud, we can freeze all assets immediately. He won't be able to touch anything while the investigation is ongoing." Investigation? Oh yes. The FBI takes mortgage fraud very seriously. My heart was racing. What do I need to do? Keep documenting everything. Don't change your behavior at all. And when you're ready, we'll execute a plan that will protect you completely. I walked out of her office feeling terrified and empowered at the same time. Meanwhile, Marcus was getting more desperate. The phone calls at night became more frequent. He'd started snapping at me over little things. Dinner being 10 minutes late, forgetting to buy his favorite beer, asking too many questions. One evening I decided to test him. We were eating dinner, pasta with marinara sauce, his favorite, when I casually said, "Marcus, I've been thinking, maybe I should get a part-time job. Just something to keep me busy." His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "Why would you want to do that?" "I don't know. I feel like I should contribute more. Maybe we could save up for that trip to Japan you mentioned." His laugh was cold. "Claire, sweetheart, you contribute plenty by taking care of the house. Besides, we don't need the money." "Are you sure? Sometimes I worry we're spending too much on vacations and dinners out." That's when his mask slipped. just for a second, but I saw it. Pure panic flashed across his face before the fake smile returned. Baby, you don't need to worry about money. That's my job. I know, but what if something happened to you? Shouldn't I at least know how to access our accounts? Marcus set down his fork and reached across the table to take my hand. His grip was a little too tight. Claire, why are you asking all these questions? Do you not trust me? The irony was suffocating. Of course I trust you. I just think it would be smart for me to understand our finances. Well, I think it's smart for you to focus on what you're good at and let me handle what I'm good at. His voice had an edge now. Unless you think I'm doing something wrong. This was it. The moment I'd been preparing for. Marcus, I said softly, I have a backup plan. He burst into laughter. Genuine, belly-deep laughter that made him wipe tears from his eyes. A backup plan? Claire, what backup plan could you possibly have? You don't even have your own bank account. Smiled. You're right. I don't. But what I did have was something much more powerful. The next morning, while Marcus was in the shower, I sent a single text message to Linda. Today. By the time Marcus left for work, kissing me goodbye like he had for 8 years, federal agents were already reviewing the evidence I'd been collecting for months. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Linda had helped me understand that everything Marcus had done, the forged signatures, the secret refinancing, the hidden debts, had been done without my legal consent. That made me a victim, not a partner. At 10 a.m. I received a call. Mrs. Rodriguez. This is Agent Patricia Morrison with the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. We need to speak with you today about some irregularities we've found in your mortgage documents. Irregularities? Ma'am, it appears your signature has been forged on several federal documents. This is a serious crime, and we need your cooperation to investigate. I took a deep breath. Agent Morrison, I think there's something you need to know. By 3 p.m. everything was in motion. Federal agents had frozen all of Marcus's accounts pending investigation. The house was placed under federal protection as evidence in a fraud case. And I was sitting in Linda's office, signing papers that would change everything. Claire, Linda said, sliding a thick folder across her desk, I want you to understand what's happening. Because of the fraud your husband committed, all assets acquired through illegal means are now considered stolen property. The court has appointed you as the rightful owner while the investigation proceeds. What does that mean? It means the house is now legally yours. Marcus has no legal claim to it whatsoever. In fact, he's going to have to prove he has a right to even live there. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Trying to access our account, but it says frozen? Call me ASAP. I showed Linda the message. She smiled that dangerous smile again. Don't respond yet. Let him stew for a bit. He's about to get some very interesting news. At 4:30 p.m. my phone rang. Marcus's name flashed on the screen, and I could practically feel his panic through the device. Claire, where are you? The bank says our accounts are frozen. They mentioned something about a federal investigation. Oh, I said calmly. That must be about the mortgage fraud. Silence. Complete dead silence. What are you talking about? The FBI called me today. They wanted to ask about my forged signature on several loan documents. Apparently, someone has been pretending to be me for years. I could hear him breathing heavily. Claire, you don't understand. This is complicated. Actually, Marcus, I understand perfectly. I've understood for quite some time. Marcus rushed home that evening like his life depended on it. Which, in a way, it did. I was sitting calmly at the kitchen table when he burst through the door, still in his work clothes, sweat visible on his forehead despite the cool weather. Claire, we need to talk. I agree. He sat down across from me, and for the first time in years I saw him clearly. Not as my provider or protector, but as the man who'd been systematically stealing from me and lying to my face. The accounts being frozen, that's just a misunderstanding, he started. Marcus, I can explain everything. Marcus, the signatures I was trying to protect you from. Marcus. My voice cut through his rambling like a knife. He stopped, staring at me with wide eyes. I'd never used that tone with him before. I know about Jake and the gambling debts. I know about the refinancing. I know about the forged signatures. I know about all of it. His face went through every emotion at once. Shock, fear, anger, desperation. How long? He whispered. Long enough to document everything. Long enough to have federal agents very interested in your activities. Long enough to ensure that when this is over, justice will be served. He slumped forward, head in his hands. Claire, I never meant for it to go this far. Started small, just a few bets here and there. But then I got in deep, and Jake's people. They don't mess around. So you decided to steal from your wife instead of asking for help? I thought I could fix it. I thought if I could just get ahead, I could pay everything back and you'd never have to know. While making me feel guilty for wanting to spend money on groceries. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sure you are. Sorry you got caught. That's when I slid the eviction notice across the table. Marcus stared at the document like it was written in a foreign language. What is this? As of this morning, I am the legal owner of this house. You, Marcus Rodriguez, are now my tenant. And I'm exercising my right to terminate your lease immediately. You can't. This is my house too. Actually, no, it's not. You see, when you forged my signature to refinance our home, you committed federal fraud. All assets obtained through illegal means are now considered stolen property. The house has been returned to its rightful owner, me. He was shaking now. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Marcus. Where does someone go when they've been financially abusing their spouse for years? Claire, please. I'll get help. I'll stop gambling. I'll do anything. The time for anything was 3 years ago when I first started asking questions. Or 2 years ago when I begged to see our bank statements. Or even last month when I suggested marriage counseling. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the yard I'd spent years maintaining while he gambled away our future. I gave you so many chances to tell me the truth, Marcus. So many opportunities to ask for help instead of stealing from me. I was trying to protect you. I turned around and faced him. Well, you were trying to protect yourself. There's a difference. The doorbell rang. Marcus and I both froze, staring at each other across the kitchen table scattered with legal documents. Are you expecting someone? He asked quietly. I am. I walked to the door and opened it to find Agent Morrison and 2 other federal agents, along with Linda and a man I didn't recognize in a sheriff's uniform. Mrs. Rodriguez, Agent Morrison said, we have a warrant for your husband's arrest on charges of mortgage fraud, identity theft, and wire fraud. Marcus appeared behind me. His face completely drained of color. Claire, please. Mr. Rodriguez, the sheriff stepped forward. You have the right to remain silent. As they read him his rights, Marcus looked at me with a mixture of betrayal and disbelief. You planned this whole thing? Yes, I said simply. I told you I had a backup plan. He was led away in handcuffs, leaving me standing in the doorway of my house. Truly my house now. Watching the man I'd once loved disappear into the back of a police car. Agent Morrison handed me her card. Mrs. Rodriguez, you'll need to come in for a formal statement tomorrow. But I want you to know. Your evidence is what made this case airtight. Without your documentation, he might have gotten away with it. After everyone left, I stood alone in the quiet house. 8 years of marriage gone. 8 years of lies exposed. 8 years of feeling powerless reversed. 6 months later, Marcus was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison and ordered to pay full restitution for the money he'd stolen and gambled away. The house was officially and permanently transferred to my name, along with all remaining assets. I got a job at a financial literacy nonprofit, helping other women recognize and escape financial abuse. It turns out that my experience, as painful as it was, gave me unique insight into how these situations develop and how to escape them. Marcus writes me letters from prison. I don't read them. His mother calls sometimes, begging me to visit him or at least put money in his commissary account. I politely decline every time. But Claire, she said during her last call, he's learned his lesson. He's changed. I'm sure he has, I told her. Prison has a way of changing people. So you'll consider taking him back when he gets out? I looked around my living room, with my furniture, my books, my choices everywhere. No, Mrs. Rodriguez. I won't. The truth is I've changed too. The woman who once felt grateful for grocery money now manages her own investment portfolio. The woman who once apologized for asking questions now teaches other women to demand answers. The woman who once felt powerless now helps others find their own power. Last week, I got an email from a woman named Jennifer whose story sounded eerily familiar. Her husband controlled all their finances, made her feel guilty for spending money, and insisted she didn't need to worry about complicated things like investments. We met for coffee yesterday. I shared my story, and by the time we finished talking, she was ready to start building her own backup plan. How did you find the strength to go through with it? She asked me as we parted ways. I thought about that question for a long time. The answer, I realized, wasn't about strength at all. I stopped being afraid of being alone, I told her. Because I realized I was already alone. I just didn't know it yet. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled things. If I should have tried harder to save my marriage, given Marcus more chances, or found a way to work things out. The answer is no. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership built on trust and respect. What Marcus and I had was a dictatorship disguised as love. He didn't steal just my money. He stole my confidence, my independence, and my voice. Getting it all back wasn't just about the house or the bank accounts. It was about reclaiming myself. Today, Marcus pays rent for a small apartment across town while I live in the house he once claimed as his own. The irony isn't lost on me. The woman he said wouldn't know anything about money now owns everything he once controlled. The backup plan he laughed at. It wasn't just papers in a lawyer's office. It was the quiet strength I'd been building all along, one small act of rebellion at a time. And you? If you're living with someone who makes you feel small, who controls your access to money, who laughs at your concerns or dismisses your intelligence, what's your backup plan? Because trust me, you're going to need one. What would you have done in my place?